Go ahead, you want me?
Yeah,
I got it. No worries. She's gonna have her first fight in April. You better watch it.
I'm looking out for it.
They happen everywhere. People stop you for pictures.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Blessed, my favorite. I'm just honored to just be in position to be loved like this.
From the biggest celebrities to regular, everyone loves you.
Yeah.
It's worldwide. You could go anywhere.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Nobody leaked this on purpose, and that's what makes it terrifying. 1 minute. Chrisean Rock was doing what the internet expects her to do: dominate headlines, break timelines, and keep chaos employed full-time. The next minute, she's talking boxing, discipline, a world title, and that's when everybody froze, because this didn't sound like a joke. It didn't sound like clout chasing. It sounded like something she'd been planning quietly while everyone else was laughing. Then she pulled the pin. She brought up Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis not as heroes, not as legends, but as proof that street energy, ego, and pressure can flip a fight sideways faster than a referee can blink. That's when boxing Twitter caught fire. That's when fans stopped joking and started arguing like rent was due, because Chrisean doesn't enter rooms politely. She kicks doors open and dares the room to survive. And now she's daring the boxing world to take her seriously. This isn't a redemption arc. This isn't a gimmick. Nobody expected Chrisean Rock to say the word boxing and mean it. Not as a joke. Not as a moment. Not as a headline grab designed to trend for 24 hours and disappear. She said it like someone stating a destination, not pitching an idea. And that difference is exactly why the internet didn't know whether to laugh, panic, or pay attention. For years, Chrisean existed in a role the internet felt comfortable with: loud, chaotic, unpredictable, a guaranteed viral moment waiting to happen. Her name became shorthand for disorder, the kind people react to instead of understand. Once that happens, growth becomes inconvenient to the audience. People don't want evolution from someone they already turned into entertainment. So when boxing entered the conversation, it felt wrong to a lot of people. Boxing is cruel in its honesty. It doesn't care about personality, past headlines, or public sympathy. It strips people down to repetition, pain, and silence. It exposes ego instead of rewarding it. The idea that Chrisean would willingly step into a space that humbles people, instead of amplifying them, challenged everything the audience thought they knew about her. That discomfort spread fast because she didn't talk about boxing like someone fantasizing. She didn't sound starry-eyed or reckless. She talked about discipline, consistency, and work with a tone that felt grounded. Not excited, not dramatic, just decided. And that scared people more than chaos ever could. Chaos is predictable. Decision is not. The internet immediately split into camps. One side laughed. They called it another phase, another pivot that would fade the moment it stopped producing engagement. They joked about gloves being props and gyms being backdrops for content. They dismissed the idea before it had time to breathe. The other side paused because they heard something different in her voice. Not confidence for show, but resolve. The kind that comes after being underestimated for too long. That tone doesn't ask for permission. It announces direction. Then she mentioned Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. That's when curiosity turned into controversy. She didn't bring them up as idols. She didn't speak like a fan. She framed them as examples of how mentality, ego, pressure, and street energy collide inside the ring. She talked about boxing not as a clean science, but as a psychological war where discipline and chaos wrestle long before the first punch lands. That rattled people, because boxing loves to present itself as pure technique and legacy. Promoters sell discipline. Analysts sell footwork and IQ. But everyone who actually watches the sport closely knows mentality decides fights. Chrisean said the quiet part out loud, and the reaction proved how uncomfortable that truth still is. Critics accused her of disrespecting the sport. Others accused her of clout chasing by naming big fighters. Some said she was speaking on things she hadn't earned the right to speak on. But underneath all that outrage sat one unspoken fear: what if she wasn't wrong? Because when truth comes from someone the audience already dismissed, it feels threatening. It forces people to confront their own assumptions. And the internet hates being wrong almost as much as it hates being bored. Old clips resurfaced instantly. Past behavior was dragged back into the spotlight like evidence in a trial. Mistakes were framed as permanent identity traits, as if discipline is something you're either born with or forever denied. Every viral meltdown became proof that this boxing talk couldn't be real, but that argument missed something important. People often seek structure because of chaos. Not despite it. Chrisean didn't deny her history. She didn't clean it up or rewrite it. She didn't pretend boxing would magically fix her life. She spoke like someone who understands that the ring doesn't save you, it exposes you. That's not the language of fantasy. That's the language of preparation. Skeptics said boxing would humble her. They were right. Supporters said she might surprise everyone. They could be right too. But the reality sat somewhere in between. This wasn't a guaranteed success story or a guaranteed failure. It was a gamble. A loud, public gamble with no safety net. The kind where embarrassment would be brutal and success would rewrite everything people thought they knew about her. And that's why the conversation refused to die, because boxing isn't just a sport. It's a proving ground. It tests patience, routine, silence, and pain. Things chaos doesn't like but sometimes needs. And the idea that Chrisean might be choosing discipline in a world that profits off her disorder created tension the internet couldn't ignore. Gyms were mentioned. Training came up. Timelines started forming quietly. And once that happens, the narrative changes. Talking becomes expectation. Expectation becomes pressure. Pressure is where things break or transform. Chrisean didn't soften her words. She didn't backtrack. She didn't add disclaimers to make people comfortable. She let the idea stand on its own, unfinished, unresolved, and therefore dangerous. That's when people stopped laughing, because now the story wasn't Chrisean says she wants to box. It became what happens if she actually does. And that question made everyone nervous, because the ring doesn't care about jokes. It doesn't care about commentary. It doesn't care about who people expect you to be. T only cares about what you do when the bell rings. By the end of this moment, one thing was clear: this wasn't a throwaway headline. It was a challenge to perception, a refusal to stay frozen in the role the internet assigned her. And whether this journey ends in embarrassment or evolution doesn't matter yet. What matters is that the choice was made out loud, and once that happens, there's no going back to being underestimated without consequence. The second Chrisean's boxing talk escaped its original context, the internet did what it always does best: it stopped listening and started prosecuting. Not with facts, not with patience, with vibes, screenshots, and confidence so loud it didn't need evidence. This stopped being about boxing within hours. It became a referendum on who Chrisean was allowed to be. Short clips spread first, cropped sentences, half thoughts ripped from longer conversations. One edit made her sound reckless. Another made her sound calculated. None of them showed the full picture, but that didn't matter anymore. The narrative had already chosen speed over accuracy. TikTok went feral. Slow motion edits zoomed in on her eyes like she was already mid-press conference. Dramatic captions claimed she was disrespecting the sport or exposing the truth nobody wants to admit. Depending on the creator, she was either delusional or dangerously honest. Both takes went viral. Neither waited for nuance. That's how controversy multiplies, by forcing extremes. Twitter followed with a different flavor of chaos. Jokes flew like jabs. Some people said this made celebrity boxing look professional. Others joked that chaos had finally found a ring big enough to contain it. Sarcasm flooded timelines, but underneath the jokes sat something sharper: fear that this might not stay funny, because boxing fans love unpredictability until it comes from someone they don't respect. Yet, the moment Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis were tied to the conversation, the temperature jumped. Not because either man responded, but because Chrisean reframed them in a way fans weren't used to hearing. Not as clean archetypes, not as perfectly packaged champions, but as human fighters carrying ego, pressure, and street energy into the ring. That rattled people. Boxing spends a lot of time pretending those elements don't exist. Promoters polish legacies. Analysts dissect technique. The messy psychology gets brushed aside. Chrisean dragged it into the spotlight and dared people to look at it without flinching. They didn't like that. Memes exploded. Side-by-side images flooded feeds. Running jokes about world title dreams became shorthand for disbelief. And mockery did what mockery always does, it tried to shrink the idea before it could grow. But here's the thing about ridicule. It only works when the target retreats. Chrisean didn't. She didn't start fighting commenters. She didn't drop defensive essays. She didn't apologize for tone or reframe her words to sound safer. She stayed steady, and that refusal to react the right way frustrated people more than any clapback ever could. Supporters stepped in louder. They pointed out boxing history is full of fighters who came from chaos, pain, and instability. They reminded critics that discipline isn't inherited, it's built, often after hitting a wall. They argued that the ring has never cared where you came from, only what you do once you're there. Critics weren't moved. They said discipline can't be learned overnight. They said boxing punishes arrogance. They said the ring doesn't care about redemption arcs, all true. And still missing the point, because Chrisean wasn't claiming immunity. She was claiming intent. That distinction got lost in the noise. Commentary channels poured gasoline on everything. Every video became a bombshell. Every sentence she'd ever spoken got reinterpreted through outrage. Creators argued with each other, stitched clips together, escalated speculation, and treated uncertainty like confirmation. Some framed this as a publicity stunt riding the Garcia Tank rivalry wave. Others framed it as the beginning of a dangerous collision between entertainment culture and combat sports. Both sides argued loudly. Neither paused to ask why this conversation felt so threatening. The real controversy wasn't whether Chrisean could box. It was whether the audience could accept her wanting structure. The internet is comfortable with chaos. It's uncomfortable with change. Old behavior was dragged up like evidence in a courtroom. Past mistakes were presented as proof growth was impossible. Every headline from years ago got recycled as an argument against discipline. As if people don't seek routine because of disorder, that contradiction sat at the center of the outrage. Meanwhile, boxing purists drew lines in the sand. They talked about respect and dues and tradition. They said you don't speak on the sport without paying a price first. But boxing itself has never followed that rule consistently. It celebrates disruption when it's profitable and condemns it when it's inconvenient. And Chrisean was inconvenient. She didn't fit the grateful newcomer script. She didn't soften her language to be palatable. She spoke plainly, sometimes bluntly, sometimes awkwardly, like someone who hadn't been coached on how to sound safe. That lack of polish made people nervous, because it didn't feel fake. Outrage peaked, then shifted, the jokes slowed. The tone changed. People stopped laughing and started asking real questions. What gym is she training at? Who's coaching her? How serious is this actually? Once those questions enter the chat, mockery loses power, because now the story isn't funny anymore, it's developing. And development is dangerous. It means this might not end with a punchline. It might end with a bell ringing, a crowd watching, and expectations colliding with reality. It might end with embarrassment. It might end with evolution. Either way, it won't end quietly. Be why the end of this phase. One thing became undeniable: the internet had already decided this story mattered. It stopped being background noise and became anticipation. And once anticipation takes hold, there's no rewinding the tape. After the joke slowed down and the timelines found something else to argue about, this story entered its most dangerous phase, the quiet one. That's when things stop being entertainment and start becoming real. No memes to hide behind. No sarcastic captions to soften the weight. Just consequences forming slowly, where public opinion can't interrupt, because boxing doesn't care about viral moments. It doesn't respond to outrage. It doesn't flinch at skepticism. And it definitely doesn't reward potential. For Chrisean, the shift was subtle but heavy. The conversation stopped being about whether she should box and became about what happens if she actually steps into the ring. That's a different level of pressure. That's when ambition stops sounding bold and starts sounding risky. Every appearance she made after that carried a different energy. People weren't listening for chaos anymore, they were listening for consistency. Tone mattered more than volume. Silence felt louder than statements. Confidence felt heavier than ever before. That's pressure most people never experience, especially not publicly, because now every move was being measured against her own words. Training posts weren't inspiration anymore, they were proof checks. Missed days weren't normal, they were signs. The internet doesn't wait for failure. It prepares for it, and boxing fans are patient when they smell one coming. Behind the scenes, the dynamic changed too. Boxing doesn't announce interest loudly. It watches quietly. Gyms talk. Trainers observe. Fighters notice patterns long before fans do. Even if no one reached out publicly, the idea had already entered the ecosystem. Chrisean Rock and boxing were now linked whether people liked it or not, and once that happens, the sport demands receipts. Training isn't glamorous. It's repetitive, lonely, and humbling. It breaks routines built on attention and replaces them with silence. There's no applause in the gym, no validation between rounds, just mirrors, breath, and the uncomfortable realization that discipline doesn't care who you are online. That's where things either fall apart or transform. People close to the situation notice changes. Less reactive energy, fewer explanations, more focus. That doesn't guarantee success, but it signals seriousness. And seriousness makes critics uneasy, because it threatens their certainty. Meanwhile, the skeptics didn't disappear. They just got quieter. Quiet doesn't mean forgiveness, it means waiting. Waiting for excuses. Waiting for inconsistency. Waiting for proof that this was just another headline detour. Because nothing validates doubt like disappointment, supporters changed too. The loud cheering softened into cautious optimism. They understood boxing punishes belief without preparation. Hope gets quieter when reality steps in, and through all of it, the shadow of Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis never fully left the conversation. Not because either fighter engaged, but because the comparison had already done its damage. It forced fans to acknowledge something uncomfortable, that boxing narratives are fragile, and image is always one bad moment away from collapse. Chrisean didn't disrespect boxing. She exposed its psychology. She reminded people that fights aren't just technique, they're ego, pressure, and self-control colliding under lights. That truth stuck, and it made the boxing world uneasy because it came from someone they didn't expect to say it. Now every future move mattered more than the last. Posting too much would look like clout chasing. Posting nothing would look like fear. That's the trap of public ambition. Once you say it out loud, every silence gets interpreted, and the internet didn't need updates anymore. It needed confirmation, one way or another. And confirmation in boxing only comes from one place: the ring. That's the terrifying part, because once the bell rings, there's no editing, no narrative spin, no thread that can save you. There's only timing, breath, pain, and whether you break or adapt when nobody can help you. And Chrisean knew that. That's why this phase wasn't loud. It was heavy, because the aftermath wasn't about reaction, it was about responsibility. She had challenged perception publicly, and now she had to live with it privately. Whether this journey ends in embarrassment or evolution isn't the point yet. The point is that the choice was made out loud, and once that happens, you don't get to hide behind expectations anymore. The internet loves chaos until chaos demands discipline. Then it gets uncomfortable, and that's where this story pauses, not with closure, but with a test that hasn't happened yet. No verdict, no redemption arc, no downfall, just a path laid out in front of someone the world is daring to fail. Because if Chrisean succeeds, it rewrites a narrative people felt safe believing. And if she fails, it confirms what they were hoping to say all along. If you're still here, let's be honest, you're locked in now. Not because this story is clean, not because it's comfortable, but because it's unpredictable, and unpredictability is addictive. This isn't just about boxing. This is about someone stepping into a world that doesn't care about excuses, doesn't respect hype, and doesn't reward intention without execution. And whether you're rooting for growth or waiting for the collapse, you're watching for the same reason you want to see what happens when talk meets reality. So don't play neutral in the comments. Say it straight. Do you believe this boxing journey is real, Or is this chaos chasing another spotlight? Is discipline about to change the narrative or expose it? Drop your take below and stand on it. Smash that like button like it owes you money and keeps pretending it forgot. Subscribe like you already know this story isn't ending quietly or cleanly, because over here, scandals don't vanish, they ripple. They spread. They resurface. They come back louder when everyone thinks it's over. This channel doesn't chase drama, it breaks it down. We don't worship hype, we watch patterns. And we definitely don't forget who said what before the pressure hit. Keep your notifications on, because when this story updates, it won't come politely. It'll come with receipts, reactions, and a whole new wave of chaos. This is Fame Ripple, where one moment turns into a movement, silence speaks louder than words, and every bold decision sends shockwaves.